right, we are back. And once again, we have with us just an outstanding trainer. You all know him as Michael Aloysius Gionta. I keep changing Mike's name. Um,
What was the name you gave me yesterday? I liked.
Quentin.
I forgot. Quentin. Thank you. I
Quentin.
love that name.
Yes. So it's a good one. I don't know whether we like Aloysius or not more, but
Aloysius. No, that's a little. Quentin is a little formal. It's kind of I respect a Quentin.
So, in any event, if you did listen to Mike already, you know that he is an outstanding trainer. He's super fun and always has great content. And this one is really good. What we got going on today. I mean, Mike is going to share with us a topic that's near and dear to his heart, and it's about how you can double your placements, double your revenue. And he's talking about how you can do this in 121 days or less. So, Mike, I'm a trainer. I love when we do this stuff. How did you come up with 121 days? It can't be done in 120 or when it's just
Well, no,
that's
it can because it's or less, right?
excellent.
It's not that on the 121st day that you're going to double your revenue. It's there's a rhythm and you can't if you decided to become really aggressive and change a bunch of things today, right? No matter how good we are as a biller, we can't make a placement tomorrow from something from scratch. So there's kind of a rhythm and pace. But if people put these things in place and do them consistently, that we're going to talk about over the next 2 to 3 months, that will increase and effectively, and I'll show you how, double revenue in 121 days. It's not magic. I'll give you a bunch of ideas, but it does little
No. So
things
no
that
one
a lot of
tunes
people
out.
find
It
are
is
allergic
magic.
to.
It is magic.
Work. Some people are allergic to work, but that would prevent them from hitting the 121.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'm gonna turn it over in a second. I just want to make sure that please click on Mike's LinkedIn profile and connect with him. Definitely check out Mike's site. It's the recruiter you .com, and he's got great audio downloads. He talked about really internet marketing, and he's got great stuff. So if you didn't listen to his last session, buy the upgrade, or if you have the upgrade, make sure that you definitely want to listen to it because it's really great stuff. So I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Michael Aloysius Gionta Jr.
Quentin.
the third.
Thank you, Dr. Lebovitz. I appreciate it. Uh, um, I enjoy hanging out on your stuff and having you on my calls. These are a lot of fun. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm just going to give you kind of a little profile. I think some of you may have heard me before, and if you have, you know, maybe just a refresher. And the reason is, especially with this topic on doubling revenue and doubling placements, and a lot of you might be rolling your eyes. And it's absolutely possible. I wouldn't put it out there if I hadn't, one, done it myself, if I haven't had it, two, got recruiters to do it that worked in my office, and three, got clients that kind of hire me to do this stuff for them to get them to do it for themselves. So the formula works, and as I'm going to go through the problem, as long as you do, so I'm going to give you stuff, you just need to implement it, versus being entertained by it. So kind of when I opened up in 1990, I almost went out of business in May 1991. There was a point in May 1991, I had $626 left in my business checking account. I had no receivables. I had tapped completely my line of credit, which was backed up by CDs from my father-in-law. So there was a potentially, that was his retirement money, by the way, that he had a lot of faith in me. So it was incredibly nerve-wracking. And the reason I share that is I've talked to so many people over the last few years that are struggling, and they're just trying a bunch of different stuff and not doing anything in a systematized, organized way. And that's what I want to try to help you with today. Now, the one thing that kept me in business was right before I left my company, Motorola, in the late 80s, I'd taken out, I think, about $20,000 worth of credit cards at about 21% interest. And those got me through the kind of the slap I gave myself in the back of the head to kind of wake up and get serious, because it wasn't that the economy stunk. It wasn't that, even though 1991 we were coming out of a recession, and did that have an impact? Absolutely. It did not have the impact of almost putting me out of business. Mike had the impact. Gionta had the impact of almost putting Mike Gionta out of business through doing making a lot of the mistakes I'm going to talk about in case you can relate to them. And then really kind of, being probably for me at that point, that was rock bottom and kind of turning things around. So it's possible for anyone. It was possible for me. Obviously, I'm talking to you here today. We turned that around over the next few years. I probably hit cumulatively about $1 million in personal cash in, $250 a year. Pretty good, but nothing that was going to be superstar status. And then between 1996 and 1996 and the early 2000s, another 5-year period or so, I did about 5 or 6 million in personal, not business, but personal production. Same guy, different mentality. Even though I got out of it in 1992, I'm a slow learner. So I did get myself from starvation to making a decent living, and then then the focus became from making a decent living to having the life I wanted in wealth building. And so as much as I can share with you in the next 50 minutes or so, is I'm going to give you those steps. So my gut feeling is when I look at these, and I've done these virtual summits for myself. I've done Neil's, Mark Whitby's, who's coming up, who's a friend of both of ours. And I've talked to people. Sometimes they reach out to me after calls like this. There's probably one of 3 types of people on this call if you're a solo operator, even a business owner. One, this would be the minority. Year to date, you've already exceeded your expectations. So you set a goal at the beginning of the year financially. I'm going to hit this goal, and you're above that already. And my gut feeling, again, real raw, educated guess, probably 10%. The next group is those who kind of have met or just slightly below their experience, expectations, and that's probably another 20 to 25%. And those 2 groups have one thing in common. They probably set a defined goal and put a strategy in place, which is why they're there. They didn't leave a lot to chance. And my experience, again, on this call is about half to 60% are significantly below the illusionary target they kind of set that they didn't even put in writing that they kind of thought and dreamed about back in January, December last year when they were really excited about making 2013 a really neat, good year. And you're off anywhere from 40 to 75% of what that target is. I've just been talking to owners and solos, guys like you, for years, and there's some common denominators. So I don't want to beat you up here. I just want to say there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And like I said, I was stuck. And I was doing those same things and repeating those same patterns of behaviors kind of year after year. And when things, there was a couple of things that had turned around. I realized the definition of insanity was doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And I'd gone, I think in the mid-90s, Michael Jordan was a keynote speaker at a success conference I went to, and he was really motivating. Here's a guy that was cut from his high school basketball team and became arguably to this day the best, if not one of the top 2 or 3 best basketball players in NBA history, and talked about the hard work he put in, and we all kind of knew that. And then he kind of talked about how he had a foul shooting coach and a jump shooting coach and a health coach, and I'm like, if the number one guy has it, why don't I? So I invested in someone. I brought somebody on to help me and really kind of helped get me clear on some things. And one of the first things was I realized, and this is kind of one of the first steps, is I really wasn't clear on what I wanted and when I wanted it and why. So it's almost like, I've told the story before, it kind of resonates with people, so I'll tell it again, is when my daughter was young, we, kind of a rainy weekend, and we kind of have some hardwood floors, we kind of emptied a puzzle box all over the floor, and all the pieces came out, and then, kind of cleaning up later on, I realized, I'm looking at before I say this, kind of what happened was, what was the first step in building the puzzle? Now, you guys are virtual, so I can't ask you live like I would a live audience, but in making a puzzle, what's the first step you need to do? Now, I'm going to pause. A lot of people think, turn the pieces upside, to the color. Yeah, that's a step. Find the flat edges. That's a step. Those aren't the first step. The first step is putting the box top up and looking what the picture looks like, so that you can then build the puzzle easier along the construct of the puzzle. Meaning, if it's a beach scene, you've got the brown sand at the bottom, you got the blue sky on the top, and maybe a picture of the sun and a palm tree, and you kind of can see where all those pieces go, and it all can start coming together. And and it kind of, that was one of the aha moments for me, was what was my box top, meaning my life, my vision for my personal and professional look like. And I was just kind of working. I was making, even that back then when my billings weren't what I wanted them to be, I was probably, making more money than a lot of my friends, and I was comfortable. And that was what a tragic, tragic thing comfort is, because it keeps you from greatness. And I was doing okay. But I wasn't happy. I was bored. I was unchallenged, and I was only probably 32 years old at the time. And I said, if I have to do the business like this, kind of this transactional, and at that point in time, I was highly transactional business this way for this long, for the next 20 years, I can't do it like this. Life's too short. I also thought I wanted to be financially secure. That was one goal. Really wanted, but I had to define what financial security is. So just kind of a coaching question to you, define that. Sit down with a financial planner. What does financial security look like to you? If you're 20 years old, it's one number. If you're 60 years old, it's probably another number. And depending on what your lifestyle needs are. But there is, and what I learned is there's an exact, specific, and precise number that you can based on, and give yourself a target toward building kind of wealth to. And so that's kind of, one, step for me was I uncovered my box top. I learned kind of, I wanted to coach Little League. And I had kids that were unborn at this time. I wanted to be active in my kids' lives. I wanted to build a business, not just a practice. And for those of you who want to build a practice, no judgment there. I'm just talking about what my vision for myself would be. The other thing I see people when they show up, when they've shown up to me kind of as solo operators and they're challenged and they're stuck, this was me too. You kind of just showing up at your desk every day with no specific target objectives, maybe starting your calls at 9, when you first started, and then it kind of, maybe slipped till 10, and there's some days where 11 o'clock's gone by, you're still kind of in your sweats, and maybe you've returned a couple emails, but really nothing productive has happened. And that's kind of an erosion. You don't just show up one day there. It kind of just bleeds, because one, if you're a solo operator, you're kind of alone. There's no accountability structure in place, and there's no one to report to. There's no one to not even necessarily report to. There's no one to kind of challenge you kind of back and forth to keep you moving forward. You're physically sitting at your desk, so you think you're working, checking email, checking LinkedIn, probably checking your Facebook, setting your fantasy football team.
Hey, by the way, Mike, are you moving your slides?
No, I'm not.
All right,
there yet.
good. I just want to make sure that everyone's seeing what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So this is, it's kind of, I spent a little time here because I want, if people resonate with this, I want, that's in the intro just a little bit longer, because if we don't identify what the problem is, the solution is, the rest of the call is just mere entertainment. And I'm not that funny. If you want funnier is Neil, right? Neil's funnier than I am. But what I've learned, the mistake I've made is I haven't properly set the table sometimes with people, is if this is happening, this is you and it's fixable. So we go through all this stuff, and then we wonder why we're only 50% of our target. So actually, I should have advanced the slide. So this just kind of those three types of people, and their head's kind of in the sand. This is kind of what they're going through. This is what their frustrations are. And you're kind of stuck there. And if this has been like you for a year or two, then these are the things you want to move forward with. And because your activity is so undefined, we tend to work on job orders where we only talk to HR and 18% fees, and feel blessed when they give us any feedback. But we feel good because our candidate Frank is at a final interview and Patty's going to a second, and both are $20,000 fees. So it looks like a $40K month, and that'll be fantastic. And maybe that's what you're thinking on Monday when you show up to work. And then on Wednesday, Frank gets an offer, and maybe you didn't prep him and close him properly because he seemed really eager for the job. It says to you, I want to think about it, which kind of really surprises you, and then sends you a text later that afternoon, tells you, because he won't call you, they don't have the courage to do this, he calls you, he tells you got a better offer. And a big mistake, I see people make is they focus on making placements, thinking that they'll make more placements. And they ignore all the key things that go into making placements. Placements are an emotional nightmare, and they're the one thing in the process you cannot control. But so you're crushed by Frank, but you still have Patty going in on the second, and you've been leaving her emails, voicemails, texts all week unreturned, as usual. And finally, an email to your employer, that is, and finally an email from them that they've moved forward with someone else, and they've the offer, they're not going to make Patty an offer. So 5 days go by, $40,000 that you had probably gone to the bank on, made a mortgage payment on in your head before you even wrote the invoice, melts away, and you end up in a point of personal devastation, which if that occurred over the course of 1 week, your next week probably stinks because all you're doing is wearing black all week, mourning the death of those two placements. Yet each month, each year, we expect the situation to change, but we do nothing to change it. We continue the process of throwing some people randomly over to a client, trying to get a couple openings. As long as you got a couple openings on your desk, as long as you got a couple of people interviewing, we're expecting magically to go from 150 to 300,000, or from 200,000 to 400,000 bucks. Let's contrast this with what kind of when I've done a profile on people that are successful. Almost a year ago, just imagine this was you. Almost a year ago, you fed up with kind of several $125,000 to $175,000 a year billings you were working mostly in a transactional way. You made a conscious decision that was no more. You just said no more. And the result, you got clear on what you wanted to build. You wake up Monday morning, you check your P&L, you're right on target for $400,000. You open up your mail, and your credit card debt was eliminated because you're on target for that $400K. You were able to wipe away that $27,000 in credit card debt. You made 3 placements last month with clients that had called you in with assignments. And over the weekend, your research team sent you 100 names, phone numbers, and emails for candidates on your next retainer, so that you can hit the ground Monday starting a recruiting campaign without having to do the research, poke around on LinkedIn, and get productive right away. So, and then you got clear on the exact KPIs you needed to hit the $400,000 target. So you were able to engineer a year, a month, week, to have 3.5-day weeks where you could take Fridays off, and a worst case, half day on Friday. And this Friday, you're going to work half a day. You're going to meet your buddy for lunch and golf at the country club you could finally afford the membership of. And why am I talking about this? Because it's possible. I've seen people do this. And I've seen people do it on the basis of making a decision to change something. So I'm going to give you the techniques to do that. But I wanted to contrast this because a lot of people, when I talk to them, they're not clear on what they want, and that's why they don't get it. This is all possible, and it's actually easier than you might think. And how do I know this? I made this happen for myself ages ago, then for my recruiters that I hired and worked for me and helped them engineer lives. Most recruiters, when they came to me, and I kind of coached them through this process I'm about to take you through, were bought a new house and a new car, within a year. And that's on a commission plan, not keeping all the billings. And then I started doing this with solo owners. So let me share with you the key components of that system. One, as I said, where are you going? What's your vision? If you could ask yourself this question, it's the rest of this is going to be like a little mini coaching call, so you got to write these questions down. If you could wave a realistic magic wand, what would you be making? What role would you be playing in your business 24 months from now? And I'd like to go out 2 years to kind of give you a little bit bigger picture, maybe even 3 years. And then what needs to occur this year for that to happen? What needs to occur over the next 12 months so that I'm happy about my progress? Keyword in that sentence, progress. Some people say to me, again, let's talk about double your billings. Let's say you're at 150 and you want to go to 300. My next question is, what exact and specific difference will the extra 150,000 in billings, let's say it's net 100,000 after taxes and some expenses, 100,000 free and clear, make in your life? So write that down. Whatever that number is for you, I'm just using this because I can't interact with you. What difference would that extra revenue make in my life? What would that allow for me that I don't have now? And it's okay if you can't answer that. My experience is 8 out of 10 people do not have a specific answer to that. And that is the reason you don't get it. because when you go home and you make your mortgage payment, you feed your kids, you take a nice vacation, and you have maybe a little bit left over to save, you're like, and you make a $20,000 placement next month, you're like, whew, all right, I've got the next 6 weeks covered. And then what happens? Everything else kind of goes down. Activity goes down, and you haven't built up passion and desire for the gap, for the difference. Some people, and this is what I've learned about solos, and when I started, kind of mentoring owners, I thought it was going to be all about the money, even though I wasn't. What I found is 95 out of 100 people that I've had this conversation with, it becomes more of the money, a little bit more money would allow some nice things, a lot more money. They don't compute into, maybe it's a lifestyle difference. With one person, a client of mine, and, real happy in life, great husband, great kid, great location where she lives, fantastic relationship with her family. We just gave her permission to take Friday afternoon. We engineered her a week so that she'd take Friday afternoon off and visit a senior center with her dog that the seniors loved. She loved doing it. She spent the afternoon before we had this conversation where we engineered her a week to hit her financial target so that she could take a half a day. She would always she would do that once in a while and be guilty because she wasn't in the office. I've done this with clients in the summer that we engineer the week so they can play golf on Fridays without having to sit there going, I should be on the phone, because we're all brought up, we should be on the phone. No, we shouldn't all the time. Because if you can get 5 days week done, 5 days week work done in 4 days, because if you're a little more focused in those 4 days, the 5th day is guilt-free, because when you know what the right KPIs are, there's no mystery into hitting a billing target. Next, second step in this process, once you have the vision, once you have the target, once you have the financial, once you've defined the lifestyle, you need to know exactly what a placement looks like. And a placement isn't just an offer and acceptance. It's a whole bunch of things that I don't, that I don't have the 2 hours to get into, but I'm going to give you the key components of it so that you can compute it. There's no business that I know of that runs successfully and scales that's predictable, where the business owner doesn't know what his metrics are. And I know a lot of you are rolling because maybe you came out of abusive environments where your owner kind of checked your numbers and said, make more calls, get on the phone, talk to more people, it's never enough. And, you're a big person, you don't need that anymore. Horse hockey, right? The reason you need metrics is not to beat yourself up, is that if you set that target for $300,000 or $400,000, this becomes a math equation. A placement is a function of a number of first-time interviews you arrange and the number of job orders you take. Each one of those two things is a function of the number of people you connect with. Each one of those is a function of the number of outbound, either phone calls, emails, etc., that you make to get in touch with them, to get them live, to build rapport. There is absolutely no mystery in what it takes to bill $300,000-$400,000 algebraically. But the problem is, and don't beat yourself up, I just don't think it's ever been emphasized enough. Most people don't take the time to learn what that is, and they don't give them that gift of certainty. Because once you know what it is, if you knew that goal today, at the end of the week, and you could figure that out over the weekend, you would be on target if you committed to hitting that activity target Monday at the close of business, and you hit that target. And you could, kind of just wash away whatever happened for the rest of the year, and you could get deadly serious and execute to that on Monday. And here, in addition to, once you understand the metrics, it's kind of get an understanding of what's enhance your marketing technique. And here's a quick way to kind of get in touch with more people quickly. One of the things when I began studying, we've been studying for the last few years, cold voicemails, not people you're already in a relationship with, cold voicemails to hiring managers, the return call rate on those is plummeting. So I'm not going to sit here and be as drastic and say, from this point forward, stop making cold calls. I would supplement them. What we're seeing is when you engineer a great MPC email that is really focused on the person's accomplishments and take out all the crappy words like, I just uncovered a great candidate who's outstanding. You know what? That's all assumed. I uncovered an individual in a recent engaged search who was 127% of quota last year with 89% new business development. And then your goal with this email, and again, because of the time, have all the time to get into this in depth, but really you can do great candidate marketing and email. You could do these one-off 30, 40 a day, cut and paste. You can do this early in the morning. You can have an admin to do this. You can have a virtual person do this, give them access to maybe another email account that you just use for this activity. What we see is we get 30 to 50% response rates from those. Sometimes it's, obviously, no, hey, thanks, no interest right now. But the whole goal of that email is to get the person on the phone and convert that into a presentation. If you do that combined with your existing marketing strategies, you're going to significantly increase your presentation count, which will significantly increase, more than double your job, more than double your presentations, thus more than double your job orders. And if you then kind of get into a little more recruiting, it's one of those keys to doubling placement revenue in 121 days or less. Also need a defined strategy for recruiting and leveraging that into marketing. I see so many people when they talk to candidates that are happy and thrilled with their company, they don't ask a simple question. Hey, Joe, I love the story you're telling me about how this company's treating you and the vision of the founder and all those neat things going on. Who in the organization is hiring right now? And this is kind of a one-on-one question. I just don't see people asking it. And I'll keep your name out of it. And do you have their contact information? Well, I can call them with this person's story. I don't have to mention their name. And occasionally what I do is, you want a 100% return call rate on a call like that? Say, hey, Mr. Hiring Manager, I was trying to recruit a couple of your people, and I got some real interesting data I thought I'd share with you. 100%, maybe not 100 because you can't say 100, 99% return call rate. Within moments, by the way, not days. You just created curiosity. Mike, this is Joe Blow, VP of Engineering at XYZ. You said, yeah, I'm not going to mention any names, but I tried to recruit this person, and here's what they said. They said they loved the organization, here's why. They said they loved working for you, and here's why. And I figured, you know what? You're getting your butt kicked every day with high expectations and a lot of stress, and I'd make this kind of a friendly call just to say, you know what? We don't hear enough of when we're doing well, and I just thought I'd maybe be your good news call for the day. And then they kind of exhale because they thought they thought the exact opposite. And then I said, well, I'm not a total altruist here. Because of that story, I said, you know what, this story needs to be told in the marketplace. And I wanted to call you, and I wanted to find and identify what I could do to earn the right to work with you and help you build your team. Nah, you got any openings? Are there any open recs? Recruiter, commodity words, stay away from them. So kind of a strategy when you're recruiting, net, find and identify happy people, find out why they're happy, then call their manager and try to build a relationship with them, never using their name, by the way. Always protect that candidate, but just you're just repeating the good data back. That's with those happy candidates. The other thing, in doing that, to build up successful marketing and recruiting campaigns, the step I see holding people back is that they're doing their own research. They're doing their own name gathering. They're doing their own. They're funneling through websites. They're spending 2, 3, 4 hours a day on LinkedIn, going through profiles. And if you want to be a $300,000 biller, and this number will go up before that, just let me put some things in context. First of all, stop doing your own research. Stop it. This can be done for $5 to $15 an hour. If you're a $300,000 a year biller, a lot of people think, they don't know that they're worth, in a 40-hour week, 50 weeks a year, $150 an hour. And they're handling at $150 an hour a $10 an hour activity. So for all you guys and gals who think you're actually saving money by not hiring a researcher, I want you to imagine that you're writing a check for $140 every hour you do your own research, because that'll get the cheap guys and gals on the phone to be really conscious of what they're blowing, because just because you're not spending the money doesn't mean you're not losing it in lost opportunity costs. And just kind of a commentary. The people that I know that have really scaled and become successful, whether as solos or building business, invest in their business. They invest in things like this. And you might think, well, they could afford it. No, we all did it when we couldn't afford it, which is why we can afford it now, even on a greater scale. So outsource those things you're not good at it. And this, just as it relates to this one thing, the research. You can go to sites like elance.com, odesk.com. You can post jobs for researchers. Just be kind of specific as the type of research you want done. There are LinkedIn experts out there. There are people that have access to Hoover's database out there. You can make that part of your posting. Get it off your desk. Just know that you hire researchers, because if you do this on your own, you're gonna have to kiss some frogs. It's almost like hiring recruiters. The beauty when you hire a researcher is if they don't work out on a project, you just move on to the next one. Okay. Next, once you started getting a little more, once you have your vision, once you know what your metrics are, once you've cleared your desk so that you can execute to do the things you're doing best at, which is client and candidate development, not name gathering. Most people, when asking this question, they don't know. What does your ideal client look like? So I got the little green guy here in the middle. They should stand out, against the crowd that's kind of sitting there in the background. Let me get you over kind of a misnomer out there. Great clients are made, not born. I'll say that again. Great clients are made, not born. All right, why do I say that? Because we all think we're going to stumble across Mr. or Ms. Perfect Hiring Manager that's going to go, hey, Neil, I've been waiting for a recruiter like you. Can I send you $5,000 up front, give you a 60-day exclusive, and if that search goes well, have you be the guy that's going to fill the next 20 openings that we have budgeted over the next 7 months so that you can bill $250,000 to $500,000 a year with us? That doesn't happen. In the good news for you guys that are that have some consultative skills is the good news is because our industry is so fractured and people do things in such a transactional way, there's a huge opportunity for any one of you to break into key accounts and get multiple hires on an engaged basis. You have to understand what that avatar looks like. So some of the obvious things, like when I say avatar, it's that kind of picture, that perfect candidate client. For me, it was somebody that was going to work with me exclusively and probably on an engaged basis. Somebody that was going to listen to my opinion, that we were going to partner with as a team. Somebody that was nimble enough to move quickly. Somebody where there was just, I had full access to the hiring manager, and I didn't mind having access to HR, but we worked together as a team, and I was an internal component. I was an external-internal component of their organization. And, I can go in a lot deeper, but you might say that, well, those are fairly obvious, but until you identify what those are for you, and feel free to steal those, you don't know what questions to ask in the process to get the client to evolve there. Because my best clients, with the exception of one, came to me as highly, highly broken transactional clients for other recruiters. Meaning, when I found people that ultimately paid me $250,000 to $500,000 a year per client, by the way, per client, they were companies that were paying 15 to 18% contingency with 6-month money-back guarantees to other recruiters. Those are where some of your best opportunities lie. Now, did I convert all of them? No. Did I convert a majority of them? No. How many clients do you need that will give you a couple $100,000 a year to make you really happy? You're not going to convert most of them. However, those people that pay crappy fees with horrible terms in a market like we're in right now, where candidates are tough to find, when they hit a point of frustration, at that point, if you're around and you're visible to them, they might go, what would that look like? How would you work with us? What would the results be for us? And I'll give you some ideas on that. One, if you're going to do this, you can't walk in looking and sounding like everybody else, because if you do, you're going to be treated like everybody else. So what does looking and sounding like everyone else look like? If you call to check in, hey, Neil, I'm calling, I'm just checking in, seeing if you have any recs, that is not a consultative relationship. That is, you are screaming, I'm a transactional recruiter that'll work for 15%. And then you're frustrated, by the way, that you didn't get 25% and engaged. Let me just get some water. I'm staring at this green guy for about 5 minutes now. So you have no defined process for taking a job order. You have very little diagnosis. You have no real, this is the transactional recruiter, maybe not you. No real presentation, no sophistication around sending over resumes on existing openings. And then you wonder why you get bad or no feedback. We let the prospect client lead. Some even wait for the rec to be emailed to them. Well, I think I've given you enough to know, Neil. I'll email you over the rest of the record. We go, okay, sheep. Anyway, the good news is this is your competition. It's not hard to overcome this. My experience, my experience actually bluntly is that most of you are winging your day, winging your presentations, crossing your fingers and hoping your deals close, and then wondering why you're treated so poorly, why your billings are poor or mediocre. What do you give to get, what do you demonstrate that gives your clients a great experience? So how do you change that? One is, you can still do this presenting an MPC. And when you get into, let's say you get into the search process, stop asking questions like, what's the background required? Now, of course, we need to know that. What are the duties and responsibilities? Of course, we need to know that. My favorite question, when they go, we do need a guy with this kind of engineering background out here in, the San Jose area, in this type of engineer. And then my first question, but before we go there, kind of what's your fee? And I say, I'm not clear yet on the level of service you're looking for. I'm happy to discuss that. Let me ask you though, when you bring this guy on, Neil, and you've hired him or her, and they've lasted a year, and they've had an outstanding first year, and I want you to imagine walking down the hall with them, taking them kind of maybe into a meeting, and it's kind of their 1-year anniversary, and you're just thinking they've done great. And you kind of just put your hands on their shoulders and you say to him or her, Sally, you've had an outstanding first year here at the organization in our engineering department. Can you tell me what they've accomplished? See, I skip right over fee, and I don't breathe in between that, and I go right into the question. And most of the time, they'll actually follow you an answer. That is the same question, ladies and gentlemen, as what are the duties and responsibilities in a much more robust three-dimensional way. So what's going to happen is they're going to paint a picture for you of what this person's going to be doing, filling in a lot of the blanks that are really going to help you recruit, because it's going to give a vision and a story for the opportunity. And then, here's your follow-up questions. How so? Say more. How so? Say more. And then you kind of flip to the part of the process where you just kind of say, well, if they're going to execute to those targets, what are the key performance indicators and the key things in their background that you need based on your strengths and weaknesses as a hiring manager to get them on and to get them to those steps quickly? Same question as background requirements. Okay, so again, I could go on and on into process and then how to sell the process so that you get an engagement. And instead of them saying, well, you're going to send over resumes, here's all the things we're going to do to identify the talent. Here's all the things we're going to do to vet the talent. Here's how we're going to present them. Here's what their situation in life is. Here's how we're going to do that. And then that represents an investment on your part of 25% of base salary, 30% of base salary, whatever you're comfortable quoting. Actually, I like quoting round numbers. I mean, not round numbers, off numbers, 26.8% of base salary with a deposit of $5,000. Or if you're not comfortable with that, a 30-day exclusive to allow us to execute, to find and identify this in an uncrowded world. So this is, the way you're going to, one of the ways you're going to double your revenue is you have to start sounding differently so that you're treated differently. And then, one, you're going to be given better terms. So you'll probably get 20, 25% more on your fees because you're going to be able to justify it with a great process. And I wish I had a couple more hours just to go through that whole process. But a lot of you guys know what your process is. Just get more scientific on walking them through what you're going to do to fill it. And then after the search, follow up with like a simple analysis as to what went well and what didn't go so well. And guys and gals, put it in writing form. I'm talking about a 1 or 2 page Word document. The problem is with most of us is we think we're too busy to do that. Yet we're not too busy to scramble around to find openings that might be at lesser terms versus locking in a client that'll call us every quarter with a 20 to 30K fee. So identify, in this step, identify the client avatar, and then identify a list of questions that will uncover their own frustrations. Questions like, if they don't believe in exclusives, Mr. Employer, do you think it increases the likelihood by 300 or 400% if you hire 3 or 4 recruiters to fill the opening? Meaning, we all have, you might be thinking we all have access to different databases and you'll get exposed to more people. And they go, well, yeah, that's kind of why I like using 3 recruiters. Are you open to an argument where the exact opposite may be true. Key sentence, key word in that sentence, may be true. And most recruiters don't spend time educating clients. They talk about what they need. I need an exclusive so I can work on it and I can put my team on it. Now, here's what happens when 4 recruiters work on it. If I got that in the old days when I used to work that way, I'd put together a mental short list, kind of check my database, do a couple keywords, 5, 6 people come up, I'd send them an email, make a quick phone call. If I really felt ambitious, I might even try them twice. Sometimes the best available guy, honestly, is in that pool. See, I get away from leftovers. Sometimes the best available guy can be found that way. But it's fairly random. I do that with 5 or 6 guys, maybe 10. The other 3 recruiters do the same thing. So maybe your outbound reach is 25 to 40 candidates at best. And the other problem is, Mr. and Ms. Employer, a lot of those candidates are on all or some of our lists, meaning it's not really 25 to 40 candidates. It's maybe closer to 15 to 25 candidates when you take out the duplication of effort, meaning the same recruiter calling the different recruiters calling the same candidates. When you allow me to execute my process, I'm going to expose you to 75 candidates. I'm going to leave voicemails, up to 7 voicemails for people before they get back to us. So I'm going to expose you to 75. This process exposes you to 25, and the only thing I'm asking for is a 30-day head start or a $5,000 engagement. My experience, not only for myself and when I've taught other people this, is when they take people through that process, the ones that are in your avatar space will buy, and you don't need a ton of them. Okay. Again, it's one of my favorite topics, consultative selling, getting key accounts. I only have an hour. So, step 4, execute. This is the sticky step. I can probably get people to buy, in theory, all of the first 3 steps. None of this will work if you don't. If this year hasn't met your expectations, forgive yourself. Because I just see, what I find is people kind of get into a guilt mode, and as an Italian guy, I can kind of get that. We were brought up that way. And the guilt actually holds you back. I should have. Maybe you should have. I'm not going to even debate that with you. You can't change yesterday. You can change tomorrow. You can change next week. You can make a choice, and it is a choice. There is no ramping up to this. You can make a choice to be deadly serious right now and start putting these things in place right now. You don't have to build up muscle to talk to more people. You do have to do a little bit of prep if you're going to get a little more consultative and kind of put together some better scripts. But, again, when I talk about forgiving yourself, there's kind of an ancient Chinese proverb, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. So in summary on these main points, 1, are you clear on what you want? Are you clear on whatever number you're thinking about that is more than you're billing now, where exactly, specifically, and precisely you're going to plot that into your life and your business? And again, that coaching question I had for you, if you build an extra 150 to 200,000, which might be 100 to 150, 140,000 after taxes, what difference will this make in your life, and where does that money go specifically? And if you don't know, and if you don't spend the time if you don't invest the time to figure that out, you're probably going to stay where you're at. No judgment, but without some compulsion to move forward, when you hit resistance, which is leaving your comfort zone, you're just going to revert back to what you're comfortable with. And again, no judgment. I know a bunch of people that do it, and they're living great lives, and they just don't want, and it's okay. They just don't want to grow. It's not a judgment, but I'm saying if you've identified a gap, then you have to identify what's in that gap and how you're going to fill it. Learn the exact, precise, and specific activity levels to get you to that number. This business is simple math. 400,000 is an algebra equation. 300,000 is an algebra equation, as is 75,000. 75,000. Most people, when I run into people billing at low levels, when I start discovering what their metrics are, I know it's usually not a knowledge deficiency thing, it's an execution deficiency. Outsource research, and again, why are you at 200K, 300K per year, which is about $150 an hour, doing an $8 an hour task? each hour you do this, right? Like I said, imagine you're writing a check. Engineer your client avatar. Invest the time to differentiate yourself from all the other I got a guy, you got a job type recruiters. Those are the kind of key components, and especially if you have access to the recording, you can go back to some of those steps. Now, my instinct tells me a lot of you already know at least some of this. Then the question becomes, so why isn't it happening? Why do you miss your target year after year? What will be different next year without changing something? Einstein had a quote that says, problems cannot be solved with the same mind that created them. And that's why I've been perpetually coached and mentored, because I'm perpetually broken. But for me, there's always the next thing. That's what keeps me. It's not even the money anymore. It's the next thing. It's the next challenge. I've helped a lot of people over the last 7 years who were stuck and frustrated. And what I've learned is, when I talk to a lot of these people, the ones that especially that are serious, it's not really their fault. They just have never been given the right formula. So if you're deadly serious about growing your billings over the next 121 days and you want help, a Sherpa to kind of guide you up the mountain, there is a solution. I just kind of re-engineered my double your placements in a 120-day mentoring program to appeal to a larger number of solo recruiter owners. Right away, I'll help you kind of get crystal clear. I'll get you to much more in-depth exercises than I could go into in the brief hour today to get clear on personal professional vision, so you have reasons to show up to your desk every day and every morning and be excited about doing that. I'll teach you 3 specific strategies on how to market so you'll never have to cold call again. And we'll put those in place over time. I'm not going to make you go cold turkey. We'll go in detail about how to hire researchers so you can liberate 3 to 4 hours a day that I see a lot of people investing in research so that you can find and identify the best ones, weed out the bad ones quickly. I'll provide you with a metric tool because I know you won't provide it for yourself, and I'm going to pay for that for you, and teach exactly how to use it so you know exactly, specifically, and precisely what you need to do to hit your revenue target. And over the course of our journey, you'll also learn all the other aspects necessary to master and to become a solo master and a solo biller without working longer hours, nights, and weekends. You learn how to get higher fees, retainers, bypass HR, or when HR is involved, work with them as a true teammate as part of the process, not a filter for you. We're going to time management for solos, business planning for solos, and a lot more I don't have time to get into. And this is for you if you're stuck or frustrated and just need to be led by the hand to go to the next level of billings. It's for you if you have the passion to add at least 50 to 100,000 or more, maybe even 200,000 to your personal production and aren't sure how. If you just want to hang out, it's not for you. It is for you if you want to engineer your business where you work with more cooperative hiring managers at a higher fee, at better terms and more respect. That is something you're going to earn. That is a process. Like I said, they're not going to show up that way. They are made that way. Lastly, and most importantly, you commit to doing the work. Okay? If you don't do the work, this doesn't work. Unapplied knowledge is a waste of my time and your money. So it's not for you if you think, I'm going to sprinkle some magic dust in your desk that's going to make placements while you watch Cheers reruns on Nickelodeon, if you're a perpetual victim to bad circumstances in your life. And I don't want to get into that. I just find that bad goo-goo attracts bad goo-goo. If you're not passionate about moving the ball forward over the next 12 months and applying my strategies that have worked for so many other people, and it's okay if you're happy at 150K or 200K in billings and you don't want to move beyond that. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying this is for those that are passionate about making something change. And lastly and quickly, here's how it works. We get together 2 to 3 times a month in a group format. I've got some content-loaded calls on this with follow-up implementation coaching calls, hot seat coaching calls where I put like individuals in the group kind of on the hot seat in a virtual basis on a phone call. We kind of go through some of their challenges and issues because here's what I've learned. Most of your challenges and issues are relatable to other people that are going to be going through this program. And we kind of move you through your blocks and keep you moving forward. And we've got kind of an accountability program put in place so that you're accountable to somebody other than yourself. We have a member website that has all the recordings, so if you miss calls, they're there for you, as well as other resources you can get that are going to keep you on track for higher billings. Now, I've charged as much as $1,000 a month for this content and structure in the past. And even at this investment level, one can easily see how just adding 2 placements a year at $18,000 gives you a return on investment of 3 to 1. Meaning, if you gave me $1 and you invested in this, you got $3 back. Again, if you do the work. But since it's my first launch in this new structure, the investment will only be $397 a month. And I want people that are going to commit to a year. However, I'm going to give you an out. I'm going to give you 2 months because you might not be sure to evaluate this. And if it's not for you, you can get out after those 2 months, sending us a note, calling me up, no questions asked. If you stick, so between 60 and 90 days, if you want to opt out, you can leave. We part friends. After 90 days, I want you in for the whole year so you can benefit from the consistency we're going to build into your desk so that over the course of a year, just like going to a personal trainer, just like going through a program, we've built all this muscle memory into your execution. And if you don't think you can add at least 2 placements, don't even bother. I mean, 2 placements at $300 a month gives you almost an 8-to-1 return on investment. Again, the website you want to visit that's got a little more detail on this is therecruiteru.com/solo, S-O-L-O, therecruiteru.com/. I don't understand the difference. Anyway.
One's forward, one's back.
So recruiteru.com/solo. And lastly, if you're committed to this process and still have a couple of fine-tuning questions, send me a note at info@recruiteru.com, and only if you're serious and ready to make this happen. I mean, if your question is, when's the next time you're running it? My answer is I don't know, and 2, it'll be more expensive. Because whenever I test something, whenever I come out with something new, I come out at a lower price point to kind of test it out. I play with it, and then my history for 7 years is to raise the price later. And if you're listening later to the recording, send me a note at info@therecruiteru, as in university.com, and I can let you, or my assistant can let you know if we've planned another step. The first 6 people that enroll will get $1,000 worth of kind of training material I put together as a bonus shipped to them, with how I took my desk from 300,000 to 2.1 million, a bunch of strategies that go in more depth on what we talked about here. Some interviews I've done with very big billers, $1 million a year producers, on revealing their secrets. And again, that'll go out to the first 6 at therecruiteru.com/solo. And thank you all for listening and investing your time here. And even if you don't work with me, and that's completely okay, without those 3 components, billings ain't going up. So I just challenge you to pick a couple things and begin to execute immediately. Don't put this off because you're going to forget about it. And with that, Neil, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here again and appreciate the invitation to your summit.
Thanks, Mike. I really always love your sessions, and you only do the commercial right at the very end, which is great, and it's great stuff. So, I mean, really value-added stuff, and you always give people a great price. So I do suggest it. In fact, an interesting story about Mike. When I first got into training, I wanted to research who was out there and what my competition is, and I found Mike on YouTube and tons of videos, and I just fell in love with the guy. I said, this guy is awesome, and we connected right about then, and he was gracious, and we partnered on lots of things like this. So definitely take advantage of him. And lots of my clients and followers are clients of Mike's, and they love him. I've never heard anything bad whatsoever, so really encourage it. Other thing is, Mike, I did the math, and I come up with about 125 to 130 days that this is going to take, but I'm not going to split hairs, right? I'm just saying.
That's because you're slower.
Yeah,
for guys like Neil, it's 180 days or less. For the rest of you, it's 121 days or less.
Okay, I'll accept that. Don't forget, if you want his handouts, you can upgrade really inexpensively for all the handouts, and you know that drill. And you could also double, triple your revenues. There's great stuff if on my session on the contracting business. Make sure you do check out the dynamicsale.com/back office so you can see how that can help you too. So, Mike, thank you so much. Really appreciate it as always. And everyone, we will see you soon. Mike, thanks again.
Thank you, Neil. I really appreciate the invitation. And for all you here, again, thanks for hanging out with me for the last hour.